3 up, 2 across, tap that play button 3 times, and walk through the archway into Dialogue Alley. Hello and welcome to Dialogue Alley, a podcast about Harry Potter books, book translations, and all other things magical. I'm Erik.
I'm Carly.
And I'm Melanie.
And the 3 of us are Harry Potter book translation collectors, which is really exciting. And we're so glad that you're here listening to us talk, because we like talking about things, and the thing we like talking the most about is what, Melanie?
Oh, just all sorts of Harry Potter books, that's all.
It is. So we are all Harry Potter translation collectors. So if you are new to the show, what the 3 of us do is we collect Harry Potter books, and we like the Harry Potter books so much that we have acquired more than just like the 7, and more than just like the 14 if you count like the US and UK books. We actually have Harry Potter books from all over the world in a whole bunch of different languages, which is pretty exciting. And that means if you're doing some math in your head, or maths if you are from the UK, that's quite a bit of books. And just book 1 alone, I think we say there are, 97?
Yeah, on this show, I feel like our number is 97.
Yeah, so that's 97 versions of the Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone book. And we collect them. And all 3 of us have all of those books, too, which is really exciting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you don't have to be into translation collecting to listen to us talk about Harry Potter books and book translations, because we also talk about a bunch of other Harry Potter-related things on this show, including, what are some highlights?
Rare and signed things, because that's what I collect.
Well, I mean, we definitely do like Harry Potter content episodes here and there, but we like to put our own little spin on things. We'll talk about the movies every so often. And yeah, we try to just like keep it fresh with whatever Harry Potter stuff is still out there, because as translation collectors, like our relationship with Harry Potter is still very much alive, because there are still new translations that are coming out. There are still new books coming out constantly, which on this podcast we'll keep you filled in on. And yeah, so there's lots of cool stuff that we chat about.
Yeah, I agree. It's all cool stuff. And again, if it's your first time listening to us, welcome. We're so glad you're here. We don't have to try to convince you to become a Harry Potter translation collector. But you might become one, just listening to the show. You might be like, hey, they talked about this book, and it's an Italian book, and it's really cool looking, and it's only like $15, and I don't want to get like every Harry Potter translation, but I might want to buy that and put it on my shelf because it's cool.
It's a cool cover.
That's how it starts.
That's how it starts.
Erik has certainly bought stuff in live.
That's true. I have bought stuff live on the show, but that's not what it's about. So for our episode today, we are going to be talking about probably the biggest news in Harry Potter book world right now in October, which is the release of the Harry Potter in the Order of the Phoenix Illustrated edition by Jim Kay and Neil Packer.
Yeah.
Is the artist, obviously not the author, right? J.K. Rowling is the author.
Yeah, she still wrote them.
She still wrote them. They just
illustrated them.
Jim and Neil did some art and released a book about it, which is pretty cool. And then for like all of you translation fans, we always end the show with a translation of the show, where we pick a particular translation in all of our collections and we give it a score based on things like how it feels, how it smells, what the art is like on the front, because believe it or not, different Harry Potter books from other countries sometimes have different art that you may have never seen before, which is super exciting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we also help you guys out with chatting about how rare this book might be, or what the value of that book might be. So it kind of turns into a cool little resource for like, oh my gosh, hey, I really wanted to get that Italian book that Erik was talking about. I wonder how valuable it is, or I wonder how hard it is to find, or where can I find that book? Well, we're going to let you know.
We will. But we'll let you know first.
I bet it's some news.
It is. It's some news. It's like we've done this before.
That was so like smooth.
It
Well
was.
done.
Well done.
What was? The whole thing?
Yeah.
That whole thing.
Oh, great.
Brava. Okay, the news. I'm so excited. The Order of the Phoenix Illustrated is finally out. And this is a book that I think we've been waiting how many years? 3?
3 years.
3 years for.
Feels like 1,000.
I know.
It feels like so many.
And according to the lady at Barnes & Noble yesterday, it was only 6 months. We had a chat. But I'm so excited.
So someone was trying to out Potter you at
It
Barnes
was the lady
Noble?
checking me out. Like I was buying the book and she was like, I'm so glad we didn't have to wait like years like we did for the last one. And I said, we had to wait 3. And she goes, no, the other one just came out 6 months ago. And I was like, no. And she's like, well, we had one. And I said, no, I mean, you sold them, but no. And she was like, oh.
You know what you're talking about? She's probably talking about the magical year, Carly.
Yeah, Jim
Possibly.
K's Magical Year, which Carly
which I don't have intentionally. And then she goes, well, do you have the Minalima ones? And I was like, yes, mine are signed. And then she left me alone.
And then you threw some coffee in her face and you left. Cold coffee, ice brew, not a hot
Right,
one.
I'm not
cold
mean.
Cold brew.
It was
I'm not a coffee person.
So that was the little out pottering story. But the book is out, you guys. The book is out. And I took pictures. I was such a nerd. I was like at a tourist attraction. I was taking pictures of the table, different angles. And I didn't even post them. Like, I just did it for my own, like, they're here.
Yeah.
Oh, the table was so pretty.
I know. Well, we don't need to dive too
No,
deep into this
we have
because that's what we're going to talk about for the whole main
Right,
segment.
but
Carly, I think you should mention, Carly, what the other news about Jim Kay and his role with these books is, because that's kind of some sad news.
It is. Yes. So Jim Kay has stepped away from the rest of. He's not going to be illustrating books 6 and 7. He has been really struggling with his mental health, which is a lot of the reason for the delay in book 5. Was my understanding, and he's starting to talk more about it. I wish him the absolute best. He seems like a wonderful, wonderful person, and I just want him to take care of himself. I'm so grateful for what he's given us. It is such a magical gift. I'm still excited for 6 and 7 because I know whoever winds up taking it over will do a fantastic job as well, but I'm really grateful for what he's done. Now I just want him to go be healthy and have his best, most magical life.
Yeah, I always.
Yeah, when I say sad news, the sad part of it for me is that we're not going to get to experience
Right.
books 6
Through
and
his
7
eyes,
as Jim
yeah.
Kay would
Yeah.
have done it, right? And that, I think we're allowed to feel sad about that. However, like Carly just said, we are definitely allowed to support his decision
Absolutely.
to put his health
You
first.
can do
So
both.
that is 100% what we support.
Yeah, we're absolutely supportive.
I would want to put out there too that like I heard I feel like there was like some confusion when he came out with the announcement saying that he was stepping down, and some people thought that meant that they weren't completing the illustrated editions at all. I know I follow this girl on TikTok that like announced like, oh, I'm so happy to have Order of the Phoenix. I'm so sad that it's going to be the last book. And thankfully one person commented saying, hopefully it'll be Neil Packer who worked on this project with him. That would be something that's really cool. Or like maybe it'll be someone else that has a more similar style. Or maybe it'll be someone that has a completely new style. We don't know, but stay tuned.
When you look at some of the other like supplemental books from the Hogwarts library, like the Fantastic Beasts book and the Quidditch Through the Ages book, there are some fantastic artists out there that have already contributed to the Harry Potter book universe, and I feel like even if they just went with one of those artists that have already done one of those books, like it's a success, right? So I'm not worried about who they're going to get to complete, Half-Blood Prince and Deathly Hallows. That so it's going to be spectacular, just like the first 5 Jim Kay books were.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
not worried about that.
No, we just want Jim to take care of himself. Yeah.
Absolutely. I know.
And
100%. We're like,
Go on.
go ahead.
I was just going to say more news. Minalima announced book 3 Illustrated is coming out, which is super exciting. This is a set that I'm really excited to be completing, although I'm collecting both UK and US Jim Kay books. I'm only doing like UK Minalima because I have to have a line.
I mean,
I can't just be the crazy person,
I I've already done UK and US, so at this point, like, I have to keep going and get
Yeah.
UK and US, even though it's like exactly the same.
I know. I know.
But it's okay.
It
I'll
was a great
survive. They're
decision.
the most beautiful books.
A great decision at book 1. It always is a great decision at book 1. And then I forget about 6, the rest of the 6. It's how it always goes. It's like when I started collecting the house editions. It never dawned on me that there were 6 more coming.
I know. Oh my gosh. Well, I feel like with the Minalima books, I'm happy to have both because I feel like I can have one on my shelves.
And
like
one
I
to
can
play
keep the
with.
UK one on my shelves and one to kind of like thumb through because that's a thumb through book. Like you have to go through and play with every
Absolutely.
page of that book.
And quite frankly, it's great to have the US one be the thumb through book because they sell them at my Costco for $22.
And typically the UK ones you can get, you can buy them and they're already signed by Minalima.
Yes.
So we've mentioned that in the episode we did about the book 1 Minalima Illustrated Edition. So that it's the easiest way to get a signed
Yeah, literally.
book by an illustrator that I've
Yeah.
ever encountered. You click buy,
And they're so nice about it.
They're so nice. And just in person, they're just wonderfully
Delightful,
nice.
yeah.
Which,
Curious what you think about the timing though of that announcement.
honestly, I feel like it could be taken 2 ways. I feel like it could be taken as like, don't worry guys, we're still coming out with new illustrated editions. Even though, like, I don't know. Like, there's still illustrated editions coming out. What do you guys think about it?
I
thought they could have waited a week.
That was my thoughts. I feel like it was a pre-planned thing, and they probably didn't think much of it at the time. I think waiting a week or even just a few days, let this announcement settle, let the dust settle, let the public kind of become at ease with it. And I want to. Jim has been talking about it on Instagram some, and I don't want to take the spotlight from that. I feel like he's trying to tell his story about this, and mental health is so important to talk about anyway. So I'm wanting to give him space to do so.
I'm only like looking at this as maybe like a casual Harry Potter fan would look at this. Like, you might not understand that there are 2 different illustrated edition books unless you're like looking at them in the store, right? They look very different in person. So, like, I can see why maybe someone that would be confused if they maybe heard this announcement, like, well, wait, book 5 just came out and they're saying that like book 3 illustrated is coming out. Like, what's going on there? So that's kind of what I thought was weird about the timing, is that these books are separate and they're both really outstanding
And very different.
Like, enough where you would probably want to own both of them if you were a Harry Potter fan. So no matter when the announcement would take place, people are going to be excited about it. But having them so close together, I thought was interesting just because people that don't know that there's a big difference might be confused.
Yeah.
Well, I will say, I'm like jumping to Minalima defense. One.
Well, I'm not accusing them of anything.
No. I'm like devil's advocating.
I just thought it was interesting timing.
Is advocating a word? I don't know. Yeah. It is now. So I feel like advocating, not devil's advocating. I don't know. I'm just making up words. So one, I feel like they usually announce this time of year. It's a good time of year to announce. And I feel like it's like right before the holidays. I feel like Sorcerer's Stone and Chamber of Secrets announced around this time of year when we found out those were coming out. So that's kind of on par. And then I feel like the other side of it is, I don't know if you guys know, but they're doing like a big event at Harry Potter New York this weekend. So
yes.
So I feel like that it like kind of runs parallel with that. They haven't been to House of Minalima in New York yet because of COVID and everything. So they're doing a really big event. It's going to be really cool. I couldn't get tickets to the event. It sold out in like an hour. But they're having like this after party reception-y thing. And I'm going to that with Peter.
Yay.
So I'm so excited about that. That's going to be on Monday.
I
so
can't
they're
wait to
gonna
hear
be,
all about
If you
it.
had to pick one, I would go to that if I had to pick one or the other.
I know. I'm going to have to like get dressed up like at work. And then I think I'm going straight from work. I'm going to go. And they're doing like, you get to do the VR. So Peter and I are going to fly on some brooms. and
Oh, that's so
and they're doing
fun.
like this reception with them. So I'm so excited. Honestly, any excuse for Peter to come into the city, like I'm
know.
happy anytime he gets to come in because I always make the trip. So
He needs to do some
I'm
events out here.
Stoked.
So I
Yeah,
can
they're
see
gonna
him.
open Harry Potter Utah.
I laughed way
Instead
too
of Harry
hard.
Potter,
It
New
made my
York.
head hurt.
That's what the entire new terminal at the airport is
right.
It's actually just a big Harry Potter experience at the Salt Lake City airport.
It actually feels like some kind of experience. I'm not sure magical is part of that description, but
Magical's probably not the adjective you'd use.
no, especially
Oh,
if you're in
boy.
the B terminal, but that's neither here nor there.
But anyway, I'm very excited about the Minalima book
Yes.
announcement.
I love their
so
stuff.
like
What color
it doesn't
it's gonna
affect.
be?
It doesn't.
I'm
aff-
hoping
we
for
know?
purple.
I don't know.
I'm hoping purple.
What do we have so far?
I was-
We have red and green so far. It could be.
red and green. Yep.
Could be like.
I'm hoping
a
for like.
teal.
I'm hoping for like a
could see
yellow. I'm hoping for like kind of like
have we had
like
a
a
yellow
goldish
one?
yellow.
No. I would, although I always associate
No.
Azkaban with purple for whatever reason. Probably because the UK has that purple strip at the top. So, or the first edition did.
I don't
so
know.
I just always associate
thinking
Azkaban
teal.
with purple. But I could see teal too, because that was the deluxe, wasn't
Or
it?
like a light blue or like a royal blue would be really nice too, because like
Yeah.
Patronus blue.
That would be beautiful.
I'd be down with anything. Obviously, I'm gonna
Glitter.
buy it no matter what.
I know.
color.
Glitter.
It-
glitter book.
Watch it be
Just leaves a trail everywhere that you
be
take it.
fuchsia. No.
Who was reading the Azkaban book in the kitchen? No,
What?
wasn't me.
It has to be red.
Definitely you. There's glitter all over your clothes.
Has to be read outside or over the sink.
Over the sink. Just reading my book.
No.
All right. Any other news?
Not that I can think of. Oh, I think it's important to note really, really fast with the two, so there is a UK illustrated and a US illustrated, one by Scholastic, one by Bloomsbury, and of course other translations of it as well. But the text block is the same between it's the same UK text block. It's just with the Scholastic cover if you buy the US one. Just important to note.
Which are you talking about? The Jim K
Yes.
book or the
Jim
Minalima
K.
book? Gotcha.
I haven't looked that closely at
Yeah,
Minalima, although I wouldn't be surprised if they use the same text block. It's easier. But I don't know about that
maybe.
one.
I feel like it's the same text block. I know we've talked about that in our previous episode. So if you want to learn more about it, we talked all about the Minalima book. You can find it in our archives, which are free. Free to access.
We love free things. All right. I think we should move to the main segment.
I don't have a good transition.
I don't
Sorry.
I don't
okay.
either.
Were you waiting for it?
I was
for
waiting
one.
for
Yeah, I
a
was
good
waiting
one,
for
and then I didn't have one. My head's just starting
sorry.
to really, really hurt.
But you could just say let's move on to the main.
Let's
segment.
move on to the main segment, guys.
So our main segment for this episode is the Jim K. Order of the Phoenix Illustrated Edition. Surprise!
Surprise! Oh my gosh, I'm so surprised.
Oh my god. I'm so excited.
Oh my! Someone's driving and just like honk the horn by accident. They're like, "What? They're talking about this book? No way!" But you better believe it, Buster. We're talking about it, and I think this will be the start. I think we're gonna maybe do a series about all of these books. I think we decided starting with this one.
We've got to.
It's probably a good idea just because it's the most recent one, but we might go backwards. How about that?
I'd be fine with it. I just want to talk
So the
about
next
them
one,
all.
the next one we do might be Goblet of Fire. Then we might go down to Azkaban.
You never
maybe
know.
Chamber of Secrets.
Maybe we'll just do odd numbers first and then even numbers and like keep everyone
Maybe.
on their toes.
Mix it up. Although everyone knows what an odd and even number is.
Yeah, but I do like when we do those kind of series and we spruce them out. It's like they all go together, but they're not always like together.
Yeah, I feel like we
You know,
have like,
I like
we
those.
have like a lot of series like running right now. Like we have our
We do.
movie series.
I was just
we
thinking
have
that.
the We have
the box set
our
series.
box set series, which we have one more of those that's going to be coming out because we recorded one that came out for our Patreon subscribers, but that one is going to be coming out. So we'll finish up the book box set series, but we also have like the What If series. We have, I don't know, some other ones just sprinkled in there.
Great stuff.
Glittered in.
Great stuff.
Glitter. It's the theme of this episode, glitter. But speaking of glitter, let's talk about the cover of this book, which looks a lot like glitter because this Order of the Phoenix Illustrated book is outstanding. I mean, all of them are. All the Jim K books are outstanding. So I don't think we need to sit here and talk about how amazing
Each
it is.
cover is my new favorite cover.
It's amazing. Right, exactly. Yeah. They're all super cool. So I don't have anything to say that's like really insightful about how glorious this book looks, but I will say that I really appreciate the blues because, you know, I'm a blue guy on the cover. And
I love it. Well, just like, I don't know, if we want to like chat about just the cover itself first. Well,
sure, let's start with the cover and then we'll back into kind of some things about.
I mean, you have to look at, first of all, the US cover and the UK cover are slightly different. The way that it's kind of laid out is a little bit different. And the color of the font and the font itself is a little bit different. I honestly prefer the US. I like that it's teal, and I don't know. Here I go. Here I go with the back and forth, guys. So sorry. I love the teal, and I love, because I love how it kind of like plays with the colors of the Patronus. I like that it is kind of opposite to the golden background, like the colors contrast very nicely, but I like the placement of the Patronus, I think, on the British cover better. I like that it's higher.
I'd agree with that.
It seems to take over more of the cover, if that makes sense.
Well, and we should mention the British cover. It looks like, if you just quick look at these, the picture looks almost identical. Like, you can't even really tell there's much of a movement, but the font is different. In the American version, we have like the American Harry Potter font with the lightning bolt, you know, on the P and the kind of squiggly Y. But the British one is the very classic, like, British font, not movie font. And it's very, like, plain and looks like text.
I love it.
And
that I actually...
because it's very plain, like, you can fit it, like, in a straighter line. So you don't have to expand it vertically as much as you do for the American one. So you do get to see more of the image and less of the font. Mm-hmm. So that's always kind of a plus with the UK books, is that you can see more, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's always a better cover.
My issue with the US font for the illustrated covers is, quite frankly, I think you have a very ornate cover already, and then you have a very ornate font on it, so it's almost too much. And I'm someone who likes ornate, gaudy things, but it's almost too much. Whereas, like, you have this very nice stripped down font, just nice straight lines with the UK font, and so it doesn't detract from the cover to me. It just kind of fits. So that's kind of my thing. Like, if I have to say there's a gripe about the US font, it's that, although I love the font. So what do I know?
Here's something fun. Not to take away from the fun conversation about fonts, but this is the first and only time.
Font and fun both start with F.
Oh yeah, so perfect transition
so
into that.
So
same thing. Okay, so this is the first and only time that we see the Weasley twins Patronus.
Oh.
You don't see it in the movies, and we only know what their Patronus is because J.K. Rowling revealed it on Twitter, and she said that they both have the same Patronus, which is a magpie, and that's what the Patronus is. Like, on the back cover, you see that. I didn't know that. I had to look it up. I was like, wait, did Jim K just invent their Patronus, or did we know that, like, this bird was the Patronus? But how cool is that?
That is really
That's
cool.
pretty cool.
Huh.
But is it cooler than the fact that the UK font color is like teal, or the UK is a green and the US is a teal? Is it cooler than that? Because those are very different colors, green and teal.
Oh my goodness, we're still
So
on
I don't
it.
know.
We've got so much more to talk about, you guys.
I mean,
I know we should.
We should move on, but I'm just going to say that, like, green is my favorite
Yeah.
color, but teal
Same.
is, like, my other favorite color. And they're two very different colors.
They are different.
Green is my
There is a
favorite
difference.
color by a lot. Teal is like up there, but green is
teal
better.
is, like, I feel like teal is, like, coming out to be, like, one of my, like, I might like it more than green. No offense, green.
I love green.
But I love
No offense, Green. Green's like
No.
crying in the corner. No, Melody said no.
Melanie doesn't like me. Meh. All right, Eric, tell us more about this book.
So I think one thing to talk about, if you've never read one of the illustrated edition books, which my next door neighbor has not, and he was texting me yesterday because he knows I'm a big Harry Potter person because he's my neighbor, right? And obviously we talk about stuff. And, on the tour of my house, everyone inevitably, sees my giant shelves of books. So everyone knows I'm the Harry Potter person in the neighborhood with the book collection. And he told me he was all excited because our daughters are the same age. And he said, I started reading the first Harry Potter book to my daughter. She wanted me to read it. And I was like, oh, I'm so jealous because like my kid doesn't want me to read it yet. But she will at some point. But he's telling me, the book I have, it's 20 years old, and it's kind of falling apart. And I said, well, you should get the illustrated edition for her first read-through. I think that would be perfect. She's 5 years old, kindergarten. Like, it's a fantastic book for your very first read-through for Harry Potter if you're a younger kid. And I say that because if you're a grown-up, I personally like to kind of make up my own images for stuff when I read a book for the very first time as an adult. But as a kid, and as a really young kid, that's hard to do in a big chapter book like Harry Potter. So I think these books are perfect for three types of people. The first type is a young child that is going to have their first Harry Potter experience be these illustrated books. The second person is someone that has already read Harry Potter and they're like, I need another way to revisit this because I want to read it again, and I kind of need something new because maybe I just not motivated to just read the plain old chapter book again. And then the third person is I think all of us, and maybe some of you listening, that you're just like, it's a new Harry Potter thing, I'm buying it because I don't care, and I'm getting it anyway. And they just so happen to be spectacular. So you're not just getting it to throw on your shelves. These really are super high quality books. Anyone that buys these, if you remotely like Harry Potter at all, you're going to just love these Jim Kay illustrated editions because they are
Beautiful.
they're so beautiful, and they really, really do make the story come alive and add a lot of supplementary illustrations and just little details that you don't get reading the regular, just U.S. Scholastic, book, whether it's hardcover or softcover, which not to say that's not a bad way to, experience the universe for the first time. Like I just said, I personally prefer, making those images in my head and creating my own, depictions of the scenes. And when you have them, like if you see the movie first, I think we talked about this with Peter, if you see the movie first, like you're picturing the movie people.
Right.
And you're not making up what they look like based on the description of the author. You're just picturing the actor that portrayed that character in the movie, and sometimes that can ruin it for me personally and others as well. But anyway, so that's who should read these books and who should buy them and who they are made for, which I think the answer is everyone.
Everybody.
I guess.
I agree.
Everybody.
I know. Everybody should buy these books. They're amazing.
They are.
And
I just talked a lot. I'm so sorry. I just rambled.
rambled. Everything you said was like so perfect. It's funny because I was mentioning last week when I was at like a bookstore with Adam in the UK, there was a guy that like heard us talking about the Harry Potter books, and he's like, "Oh, I'm thinking about like picking up these books. Like I've never read them and I've never seen the movies." And I was like, "You should get the illustrated edition," because in my head I was like, it just draws you in. Like these illustrations draw you in, and I feel like someone that's older that hasn't experienced Harry Potter before, yes, while it is amazing to have that like first initial experience of picturing these characters in your head, I also feel like having pictures to kind of relate back to is helpful. That's just my opinion. Also, I think had that person been in the United States, I would have recommended the Brian Selznick books. And I would have recommended those probably before recommending any of the Mary Grand Pré books, even though those illustrations are like the ones that are iconic and the ones that we grew up with. I almost feel like they become like almost white noise because we're so used to seeing them and we're so used to seeing that cover art. And like, I feel like the Brian Selznick art, because of the fact they're in black and white, you still have that element of being able to imagine them. But we're not here to talk about Brian Selznick, even though I'm obsessed with his cover art. We're here to talk about Jim Kay and also Neil Packer, because he had a major influence on this book. So
Yeah.
He did. And might I add one more thing about reading this book?
Yeah.
Like, as a reading the book, these books are all very big and they're very heavy. So you're not going to read them like you would traditionally maybe read any other book, like fill in the blank. You're not going to sit in like a chair and hold it up in the air, right? This has to be a open in your lap book, or at a table with a lamp book, or curled in the corner of a couch and you kind of prop it up against something book. They're big. So, like, I really just picture sitting next to, like, my daughter, you know, and just having this book open, and it's huge, and we could both look at the pictures and stuff. I think that's really a cool thing about this book, is that it's big enough to read it with a companion, and you can kind of pore over it together, which is really kind of a magical way to have someone experience Harry Potter for the first time, especially from like an adult that grew up loving Harry Potter too. Like, that's, like, what a cool connection.
Yeah.
This book can provide that opportunity for that connection to happen.
Yep.
So I think we should talk about maybe some of our favorite illustrations. We don't want to spoil everything,
don't.
but I think
like highlights. Like, let's give
I think we can mention some highlights.
And it's so
not
hard
lowlights.
because
We don't want to do any of that.
But it's so hard because the lowlights are very few and far between, right?
I mean, I actually have a comment. Can I make my comment?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you can make your comment.
For me, I feel like it's almost a missed opportunity that there weren't more illustrations of St. Mungo's, because St. Mungo's isn't something that we see in the movies, and it's something I would have loved to see illustrated, because we don't know what St. Mungo's looks like.
That's what you should shout out at your Minalima reception. You should be like, "Hey, book 5, more St. Mungo's
St.
pictures.
Mungo's.
We want the hospital."
I wonder if St. Mungo's, like, going back to like why Jim Kay is stepping down, I'm curious if if he left out some of St. Mungo's because of what he was dealing with his own health. I'm curious if, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to add a dark note, but I know if I were struggling with certain things, I wouldn't want to illustrate certain moments from this book in particular.
Yeah, that's definitely a fair point.
Going back to your point, like, that's such a powerful moment in the books too. So there's so many.
And it's a location that isn't featured in any other book. It's mentioned in other books, but like, that's the only time that they go there and we see it. So,
and it's.
Well, I think that's why we got so giddy about the Slovak box set.
Yeah.
Goblet of Fire, right?
Right.
With the cover is the second task under the lake. Like, that's crazy. I just posted that on my page not too long ago, so you can check that out again. But like, how cool is that? That, like, you know, Adrian Macho picked a scene that we've never seen before, and that's, I think, what we look forward to with all of these illustrated editions, is seeing something that we haven't seen before.
Well, there's a Danish book that has the scene
by
under
anyone.
the lake.
That's
Danish
true,
book
but it's
4.
not. It's not as.
I like Adrian's rendering of it better.
I guess. Yeah.
yeah.
Adrian's is so poppin' that
His
forgot
art's
all
phenomenal.
about
But we're
that.
back to Jim Kay and Neil Packer, because that's what we're talking
Back to Jim Kay. So,
right.
what are some highlights, you two?
I'm gonna take some of the low-hanging fruit and say I love the Umbridge photo. I love or not photo, but it is kind of a photo. Like, it's how I kind of pictured her in my mind. And other than finish book 5, we really don't have a good rendering of Umbridge. So.
Yeah, she's in the U.S. in like the Grand
Yeah,
Prix chapter art, but it's not.
It's
you know,
chapter
those
art, right?
Pictures are
Right.
small. They're little vignettes.
This
is
is such
chapter
a good one, and as you pointed out, like, she's holding a knife, and there's like drippy jelly jam stuff off the knife that looks like blood. So that's very well done.
There's like, it's either the jam or like lipstick on her teeth.
Oh, I know.
Like, she's put together like not she's like well, but like
not well, like
super well.
Yeah, like you look at her and you just know that you don't want to wind up in her office in detention because it's not going to end well. And all of the pink
Do we know
is so
what page
sickening.
she was on?
Yeah, she's 182. And all of the pink is just sickeningly pink. And the cat plates are there, which I just love. Because you can't have an Umbridge without cat plates.
It's like Pepto-Bismol pink.
Yeah,
like,
it really
the pink
is.
That makes you nauseous.
It is a sickening pink.
Yeah.
Like the color palette for this is so well done. And she really looks kind of like how I just thought she would look in my mind's eye when I was reading the book, before the movies came out years ago. So I had to say that because I think everybody has been looking forward to wondering what his Umbridge would look like.
Yeah, she's amazing.
One of the things that I love that they do throughout the books is just like some of the pages are just doodles, right? Like they just have doodles or just decoration behind the wording. It's not a main page detail. There's one that I've since misplaced. Like I forgot what page it was on, but it's just like this cream and kind of pink checkerboard. And it's just page detail. It's not even a...
Yeah, I know what you're talking about,
like,
then. They just add some flair to a gigantic book. And all of these books, all the Jim Kay illustrated books, it's impossible to make a full page illustration for every page of this book, right? There's just too many pages. But they do enough. I mean Jim Kay and Neil Packer in this book. Every page there's something fun on it. Even the gray pages, the gray's kind of got some color splots on it, or like looks like some ink drips or just smudges. It's just not boring.
Right.
Like it never gets boring.
I wish I could
It might
find
get
that
dull,
page.
like duller, but it's never boring.
Oh, I think the checker page is 270 that you were talking about.
Like go on.
I was just going to say I totally agree with like every single thing. Just the fact that every page it's like it doesn't have to be like related to Harry Potter, or it's like they take one little sentence and they're like, ooh, let me play off of that. And I love the ink blots, and I love like there's just one page with the quill, so then the blood quill, and then the next page just has little blood splots, and like it's just so cool.
It's the Umbridge chapter.
I got kind of icky when I got to that page. I was like, ooh, it's supposed to be blood.
Ew.
Yuck.
But then you flip and it's the I shall not tell lies right after.
Yeah, in the background, really kind of faintly. Yeah.
And I feel like something, I don't know, Eric, if I'm going to steal your thunder, if this is something that you were going to talk about when you talked about your favorite page, but something that Eric was talking about before. Should I say it? Should I not say it? You should
go for it.
No, say
go
it.
Ahead.
Say it. It was your thing,
No.
Eric. Go say it.
No, because now I forgot. So you say it, and then I'll just say that was my thing.
Oh, we're just talking about some of the pages are done on black paper with lighter drawings and lighter font, and it's not even the fact that it does that, but it just the side edge gets such it just makes such a statement because it's not just all white. It's so many different colors that you see. Like there's a couple of pages that are this bright gold color, and they just stand
There's a
out.
lavender page with a pink font.
I love that one.
And it's not like the Umbridge pink, but it's very purple, violet, lavender, and then the font is just a lighter shade of it, but it's still in that same pinkish purple. And it's cool, right? And then there's the obviously black and white dark mode pages.
It's just beautiful. 432.
But it's
432.
It's so easy. Yes, is that the one, the pinkish one?
No, that's the golden one that I was talking about. Because I'm a Hufflepuff, so these are my colors.
Yeah.
I love that page.
But it makes the whole thing as exciting because you never know what you're going to get on the next page when you turn it. So that's just a really cool thing. Before, Eric, you tell us what your favorite illustration is, what do you guys think about the combination of Jim Kay's work and Neil Packer's work throughout the book?
I love it.
Because that's something new. That's something new for this book that we haven't had in any other illustrated edition before.
I think that, sorry Carly, I'm jumping in right away. I think if you didn't know there were two different people doing this, you wouldn't necessarily know it right away if you're just kind of casually looking at the book, which I think is really good. I think that's a good thing, which means they complement each other really well. If someone were to say, hey, two people did illustrations in this book, it's pretty obvious to then say, oh, okay, like, yeah, I can tell this one's this person and this one's the other person. But they don't ever feel like completely out of place. And in fact, there are some pages where there is a Neil Packer and a Jim Kay doodle on the same page, and they're very similar enough where they could be the same person if we didn't see the little.
They're very complimentary.
Yeah. And
it's a very seamless thing to me. Like, you have to look for it. I think it's very complimentary, like what your YouTube said.
yeah, and all the Neil Packer illustrations, whether they're like a small doodle or big, they have like an NP next to them, like in typeset, so it's not like a signature, but it's very obvious which ones are the Neil Packer pages if you look for that NP. And also in the very back of the book, they do list every page that Neil Packer contributed something on. So if you want to like look for something directly, just an example of some of his art, you can find that without having to just thumb through the book.
I love that.
321 is an excellent Neil Packer, by the way.
I love how they complement each other. Say that again, Carly?
321 is an excellent Neil Packer one.
Flippin'.
Like, combined with the background, like
too.
the page art, and then the actual.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right? How cool, how beautiful is that?
So like that's a good example, kind of like one of my favorites is a Neil Packer in this book, actually. But that's a good example, Carly, of how like it looks like a side doodle. It's not like a full page illustration, but you can tell that it is a different person if you know that there are two people doing it. Versus like, I think you said like the Giants page, you're like, wow, is that a Neil Packer? No, it's a Jim Kay. He's like very versatile in his different styles that he can do in this book. There's like watercolor, there's pencil, there's like paint, like there's just a whole bunch of different mediums that he uses to make the art. There's just pencil sketches.
Flipping through, I'm just getting more excited about this book, you guys. Like, seriously. I think I say this every time, but it's my favorite. I was just going to say I say it every time, but I think it's my favorite illustrated one.
Yeah.
Oh, like every time another one comes out?
I mean, you know.
Yeah.
What were you saying, Erik?
Yeah, that makes sense.
No, I wanted to see which one was Erik's favorite.
Oh, well, my favorite on page 100, which is the double page, flip the book the other direction, like 90 degrees.
Oh, yeah.
Entire map of the Ministry of Magic, and that is a Neil Packer. Which, that was the first page that I got to when I was flipping through, and I was like, Rita, she's my wife. It's like, you gotta come look at this page. And it's just so detailed. Like, you could look at that page for a solid 5-10 minutes and maybe not see every detail on there. It's just so amazing how much stuff is crammed into those two pages. And I think for anyone that reads the book and kind of pictured the Ministry of Magic in their mind, this does a really good job of not necessarily showing like what each floor would look like per se, but how it exists below the street level. And how the lifts work and how the levels work. Because I remember being very confused on my first read through this book as a much younger person when they're like going up to level 2 or down to level 6, and they're like, oh, wait a sec, they're reversed. Like level 1 is the top, and it goes like down, 14 is like low, right? So like it's just a really cool reference to look at, and that's what I think is great about these illustrated editions is when the pictures can help you better understand the text. And I think that's a perfect example of an illustration that can better help you understand what's being talked about.
Absolutely,
in the text.
Absolutely.
Yeah. My second notable one is it's another Neil Packer one, and I just want to throw it out there really quick. Is page 408, which is when the Weasley twins are like launching all of the fireworks and stuff, and the whole page, like it transitions. It's black on 406, black on 407, with a little firework action, and then you turn the page, and the whole borders of all the text is just this gorgeous kind of reds, greens, and oranges with some hints of purple.
It's stunning.
And
it's simply stunning.
It's not like a focal illustration. It's like a page doodle, but it really does play off of the moment that's going on in the book, and it just makes that page more. Go I guess come alive better is a good way to.
And how fun
say
is the
it.
moment
And
that
then I
it's
guess
illustrating?
Oh, it's hilarious! Like I remember giggling.
I laughed
when
so
I read that
hard.
page the first
Yeah, same.
And I will say this might not be like a big picture, but I think one of my favorite illustrations in here that Jim Kay did was on page. Oh boy, I just closed my book. 465, and it's only like a quarter page picture, but it's Hagrid when they're trying to take him by force during the one of the OWLs when they're on the astronomy tower.
Oh, right.
And they're like attacking Hagrid, and he's like fighting back, and they keep talking about all they can see are these red stunning spells, shooting at him, and I don't know, like that's a really kind of terrifying moment in the book in general. And then McGonagall runs out and gets the stunner right in the chest and collapses, and like that's, if you didn't know, like Umbridge is kind of dark already. Like this is when it gets like, oh gosh, like she'll really go to any lengths to get her way. And I think that just the dark page there, it's just a really cool picture. I like how the reds pop against the dark colors. But like, I don't know if I could pick just one favorite. I think that's just one that I haven't seen circulating around social media that's really cool, because obviously there's some ones like the Umbridge, right? Everyone's posting about that right now.
Right. I think...
And, I feel like that's a cop-out for me to be like, it's the Umbridge, even though I love the Umbridge, right? Like, I just wanted to pick something that was different than what you guys were picking. Well, like,
I love the whole chapter of the Department of Mysteries chapter because of it's the dark with the light, dark pages with the light. It's like a light blue lettering, light blue script.
It's a light blue, like the candles, yeah.
Yeah, and then we also have one of the most amazing illustrations of the whole book with the Thestrals over London as well. And that the tone of the illustrations or the tone of the art throughout the chapter really matches that chapter. Like really paired super well. And toward the end of the book.
That's when
Go on.
When you look at the side edge of the book, it's like you can almost predict like, oh, that's going to be a pretty dark part of the book.
That's a lot.
No pun intended.
Right. Even if you don't know how it's going to end.
They're dark pages. You're like,
so definitely that whole chapter for me is very stunning. And then I love page 502 about how it's very, very light and it's very, very dark, and they're just paired so well, and it's just a very stunning image. And again, it's not a full page image. You have text on the right and then the images on the left, and then you have the backdrop images, but it pairs so well with the lettering, and it's just a very limited color palette, and it's a very evocative picture. I keep saying photo, but very evocative image. So it's incredible
100%.
What these illustrators can do with minimal color. They're just so talented is really what it goes back to. Just so talented. And then you flip the page and you're just like, again, very minimal color palette used, and it's a very evocative image. I just love it. I'm so excited to be redundant.
Melanie, are you going to talk about the Grimmauld Place pictures on the end boards? Because that gets an honorable mention for me if you don't talk about it.
No.
I love it. I love it. It's super cool.
I'm sitting here like shaking in my boots because I was like, oh my God, no one say mine. Please no one say mine. Please no one say mine. Because I flipped through this, and before we started recording, we were flipping through like one page at a time. We were like, ooh, I really like that. Ooh, I really like that. And when I found mine, I kept it like a secret what my favorite image was. And I feel like this is very like, I don't know, symbolic just of Jim Kay and like how much I appreciate his work, because I say all the time that Adrian Macho's Hagrid is my favorite Hagrid that I see in the series, and that's because I see Hagrid as being this warm, fuzzy, cuddly, like innocent character, and I feel like Adrian Macho captures that. Jim Kay's Dumbledore is my favorite Dumbledore out of any Dumbledore I have ever seen illustrated ever. I have always been just heavily obsessed with his Dumbledore because since book 1, and his illustration of Dumbledore on page 538 puts tears in my eyes. It's just so vulnerable. The entire page is beautiful. There's so much detail to it. You see Phineas Nigelis's portrait in the background, and he's like not in the portrait, but you see the other headmaster portraits. You could see the Sorting Hat in the background, and just the way that he is illustrating Harry's emotion and the way that he makes Dumbledore look so vulnerable and so human in this picture is stunning. I feel like there's no other way to capture it, and I feel like it makes Dumbledore, like, it reminds you that Dumbledore is also just a person. Like, throughout the series, I feel like Dumbledore's put on a pedestal so much that he's the greatest wizard of all time and he's the greatest sorcerer in the world and all of this stuff about Dumbledore, and granted, he is, but in this moment where he feels so broken that he's let Harry down, and he feels so broken that Sirius was killed, and he feels so broken that he spends the entire book not communicating with Harry and battling whether or not that was the right choice at the end of the day. Like, all of that is said just looking at this one image, and it's
huge contrast to the Dumbledore, like, 6 pages before when he's fighting Voldemort, right? Just looking like
that's exactly
like, the only one he ever feared.
I have goosebumps. Do you guys see? I have goosebumps just like looking at this picture, because it's just so human. And I fell in love with Jim Kay's Dumbledore in book 1 when he has my favorite image from that book. Spoiler alert for when we do our series and we get to Sorcerer's Stone, but the image of Harry sitting crisscross on the floor with Dumbledore after Dumbledore discovers him looking into the Mirror of Erised, that's something that has never been shown, and it also shows how human and relatable Dumbledore is. And he's just this dude talking to this little boy about like how big his feelings are, and here it's like the same sort of vibe as that to me, but it's just so much more serious and so much more powerful. Like I'm so emotional just like looking at this one illustration. It's just beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful.
You can absolutely feel the grief there. And I think, again, that's a testament to how versatile these illustrators are, because like what you're saying, how wonderful, and like when you go back to, because I know what Dumbledore you're talking about in book 1, and you see him and he's just this happy looking wizard, and then you see this one and it really makes my heart hurt.
Another amazing thing about this page that I'm so crazy about is there are just so many details that I feel like the more you look at it, the more you see so many amazing things. It's not just Dumbledore and it's not just Harry. I see the broken gizmos on the floor, which like I remember that in the book, and it just shows so much more of the angst that was in that moment, and it's just so unbelievable. I could stare at this one page for forever. Like, I probably would stop reading and just stare at this picture.
Well, I think we all, when we, hear about Dumbledore's office, it sounds like the most amazing place to just stand there and stare at all the stuff. So it's only fitting that, like, the illustration to match that is, also an illustration you can stare at for hours, because that's what I would do in real life. I think that's what we would all do. Like, when we would go on the Forbidden Journey ride, like, they made that queue line where, like, you want to stand there and look at all the stuff, but they're like, move along, everyone. And you're like, oh
no. I let people go ahead of me. I'm that person. I'm like, I have to look at this. Go ahead of me.
That was my next point. And, like, people are, like, staunchly like, nope, I'm staying and I'm looking. And that was kind of a first for me visiting a theme park, like the very first time that I went to the Wizarding World. It's like, yeah, I get it. Like, well done. I felt that way with, like, back when the Dragon Challenge was a ride and it was dueling dragons before then. Like, that was a super immersive queue line. Like, Indiana Jones at Disneyland is super immersive. Like, you just want to, like, be in line for that ride. Same with some of the rides, the Resistance at Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, and they're just doing that more and more when you go to, like, a physical place that you want to just stare and look at it. But I feel like that's how this is in this image. It's done purposefully to make you want to just keep staring at it and keep revisiting it. So he did an excellent job.
Yeah, I feel like it was just complete mission accomplished. I feel like there are so many other images that he depicts throughout the book that, okay, you look at the picture and you see Umbridge and you're like, wow, I love your interpretation of Umbridge. Or you see his Luna, which is also, she is spectacularly gawky and awkward and wonderful and exactly how I would picture Luna to be. And I will stop and stare at those pictures, but just the emotions that are felt on this page are have me completely stopping in my tracks.
Well, it's like a good capstone to end like an amazing illustrated book, like to have one of the final images be something that's that
Powerful.
I was going to say that good. That would be a terrible what a bad adjective to pick for that. It's really good. It's
real good. I really like how good that picture is done.
But you know what I like? How really good this book is. So if you are mildly interested at all, if you don't have this book, highly, highly, highly recommend you pick it up. It is totally worth having in your collection. There are lots of sales right now. Mm-hmm. You don't have to pay full price. I think full price is what, $55, $59 somewhere. It's under $60.
Hold on, if I could just open this big book.
Oh, I can hear you grunting. You must be lifting up the giant book.
It's like 1,000 pounds. It's $54.99.
$54.99 US dollars. Okay.
But I got mine like on sale at Barnes & Noble. It was 20% off. And then, fun fact, if you're a teacher, you get the teacher discount anytime you buy books at Barnes & Noble. So you get extra money off of that.
Yeah, and I think I got mine on Amazon pre-ordered, and it was like 30 something.
Yeah, not bad.
In the 30s, right? So, and I know Target has a sale right now in the 30s. So if you can pay in the 30s for this book, which is a really, really good deal. Like,
I definitely think so, because this is a beefy book.
It is beefy, but you know it's not a really beefy book, Melanie.
Is it the translation of the show?
Da 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 da.
Guys, we had a little technical snafu, and Carly kind of cut out. So we're gonna continue on with our translation of the show with just me and Erik. Hopefully that's cool with you guys.
I'm blaming like the Flu Network, like someone cut off her apartment from the Flu.
Yeah, like
Flu Network.
The documentation, like trying to connect her to the Flu Network, like was just about to go through, and right as we were about to start the translation of the show. Crazy.
Well, and I think this is a good point to mention that if you're new, we don't live in the same place. We don't record in the same place. Melanie's in New York, I'm in Minnesota, and Carly's in Utah.
So that's three time zones.
It's 3 time zones. It's pretty far apart geographically. So the fact that we somehow make this work on a weekly basis most of the time is pretty amazing. Thanks, technology. Except
yay.
For today.
Except
Boo
for
technology.
Today. Boo technology, but yay for translation of the show. Which,
yay.
Our translation of the show today is an amazing one, and I'm so excited to talk about it. It is the original translation of Romanian. And for those who don't know, Romanian was translated twice. There was the first translation, which was translated by Iona Ipereanu, and it was published by the Egmont Group. And then the book was retranslated a second time, and it has different covers. Did you know that it's the Johnny Dettle cover art, Erik?
I do now. Thanks for pointing that out again. I forgot what episode I discovered that on. I love when one of us discovers something new on the show. Like, even like last episode with that checkbook we talked about with Peter. It's like, wait a second. This is new information.
That was a silly new thing. That was silly that you didn't realize. But it's okay.
It was silly. But some people have reached out to me and they didn't know either. So I'm not the only one. But I think it is worth mentioning that this is the first of the 2 Romanian translations, because that means on our Dialogue Alley collection list of how many translations there are, we count 2 for Romanian. So
That's
we count
right.
this original one by Egmont Group, and then we count the second one, which was published by Arthur.
Arthur. Thank you, Arthur.
And I think we should also note that this original translation has like they did all 7 books. It's not like a one-off where like the original Turkish translation, I guess, was so poor that they just said, you know what, we're going to start over, new translation.
Yep.
And we're gonna then go forward, and that counts for 2, Turkish original and then the new Turkish. But Romanian, they did all 7 books. So there are a lot of different versions of this book, hardcover, softcover, different sizes.
Yep.
And they're not hard to find. I mean, they are, but they're not scarce. Like they published a bunch of these, and people bought them, and they made it all the way through the series. So
yeah,
they're out there.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll get into that. I want to tell you guys a little bit more just about Romanian before we get into like all of our scales and all the data, which I know you guys are dying to hear because I'm all about that data.
All about the data.
I feel like I should have a shirt that says that, like all about that data, because
I'm sure Johnny from our Discord and also Translation Collector and like official librarian of Dialogue Alley, who creates all these spreadsheets that keeps track of all the scores that we give books and stuff. He needs. I know he has a shirt that says that.
I'm sure he does. If he does, I want one also, because my job is also analyzing data, and I take data all day long. It's out my ears. So before we get into all of the numbers and the cool stuff, I'm going to tell you some other cool stuff, which is that Romanian is an Eastern Romance language, and it's spoken by approximately 22 to 26 million people as their native language, which is so cool. There's so many of them. And that's just the people that are primarily in Romania and Moldova. But other than that, there's another 4 million people that speak it as a second language. And worldwide total, there's about 34 million people that speak Romanian. That's
a lot.
Wild.
It is wild. It's not a language I typically think of. Like, give me a European language. Like Romanian isn't one that I'm like, right. Oh, boom, right away. Like, but 34 million, that's a lot of speakers.
It's so crazy. If Carly was here, she would tell you about how much she loves the Romanian language, how it's such a beautiful language, and how interesting it is and how lovely it sounds. And I mean, I agree. I think it's an absolutely beautiful language. And, something I talked about last time with Peter was one of the big connections that like I have with my books, and the reason why I love collecting different translations is because I feel like I have an attachment to my culture and my history, and I'm Romanian. So having this book is like extra super special. I love it.
Absolutely. Well, and Melanie, that's kind of why I picked this one, because we talked about it last week, and you got like really like
sappy,
not like emotional. Yeah, sappy's a better word. You weren't like tearing up, but yeah, I was like, oh, that's really special. I didn't know that about you, so I was like, we haven't done this one yet, but we did do the other one. So yeah, so now you can feel extra special.
I will say another special thing about this book is that like my copy that I am holding in my hands, I have a hardcover. It's my hardcover ASMR for you.
Oh, we're into that now, I guess. Okay.
But Erik does not have a hardcover book. He has a paperback. Should
I try it?
Yeah, go on. I mean, that was pretty good.
That was pretty good.
But the reason why Erik has a paperback and I have a hardcover is because I originally had a paperback, which is now Erik's paperback, but then I got a hardcover, so I sold Erik my paperback. So,
which is great. Thank you.
You're so welcome. It makes me so happy. I'm like, I get to like see, there's my old book is right there. It's still in the family. It's so cool.
Yay.
So on a scale of 1 to 5, how rare would you say this book is?
Well, I mean, like they still exist. They're around.
Right.
They're probably not. They're not sold like new in bookstores, but they're sold in used bookstores, and people have them in their houses. And so I don't know, maybe a 3. I mean, they're still in Romania.
Yeah,
they're not like all over the U.S.
I would say like a 3 is fair. I think that's. Yeah, I would say it's about that. These books weren't like too tricky to find.
And I can totally see people that like had the first 7 and maybe like the new ones are coming out. And they're like, I hear it's a better translation, so I'm just gonna like get rid of the old ones, and then they wind up at a used bookstore or whatnot. So I'm not saying like you can just go online quick right now and buy one for $10, but like if you look around, they're not too difficult to find. But you do have to do a little bit of digging.
Yeah. So not too bad. And then what would you say for the value of the book?
I mean, I think you always have to include shipping cost for these books. So
Right.
even though this book, you could probably find it locally if you're in Romania, I'm guessing for under 20 US dollars. Like, it can't be worth
Probably
more than that.
something
It's a
like
used
that.
book.
Yeah, I would say just like the cost of like a book in a thrift store or something along the lines of that. I don't think it would cost too much money, but shipping costs definitely drive that up for sure. Trying to get it here.
And trying to get it from Romania to the United States, it's a long distance, and trying to navigate the process, and you might have to pay someone to help you find it. So like there are costs to that. So I would say if you can get the book itself for under $50, which seems like a lot higher than 20, but like you don't know necessarily.
Yeah.
So under $50 is a pretty good deal, and then plus whatever the shipping cost is.
I think that is very fair. Are you ready to smell this book? Because I'm
always ready to smell
That's
books.
my favorite part.
Yeah.
So that's
wow.
like the first thing that you have to do. All right, open up.
Okay, I initially was like, "Oh yeah," and then the farther my nose got in, I was like, "Nope," and then I backed away.
This book is dreadful. It is so not good. And we have two different books. Like, again, I have the hardcover. And it stays in your nose.
Yeah, it's got to be the glue because the pages themselves, they honestly don't smell bad. They smell like woody, which it's paper. Paper is made out of wood. If you didn't know.
Oh my gosh.
A hot take here on the podcast. No, the closer you get to the glue, the worse it smells.
It's
I'm giving
awful.
it a poor, just because the paper doesn't smell terrible, but the glue surely does.
No, I'm giving it a dreadful. I feel like
Ooh,
it's horrible.
dreadful.
Dreadful. Size and proportions, though, I would give this book an outstanding. I love this book. It's definitely, you know what it is? It's the book itself is so thin, and that makes it like the fact that it's tall and a bit narrow, and as thin as it is, I don't know. I feel like the size and proportions are just awesome. Outstanding.
Yeah, they're pretty good. Mine's a paperback, so I compare it to other paperbacks that I have, and typically, like, the one I compare it to, I set it down. It was sitting right next to me, is the, like, UK paperback that I have that is, like, not super white paper, so it's about the same size.
All right.
And I do this every time. It's like the same size. And that book is a really great paperback size, so I give it and exceeds expectations for that. I don't think it's incredible, but it's really good. So I give it an E for that.
I love it. And I feel like the size and proportions lend to my score for how the book feels in your hands, which I would say also is outstanding. I love how narrow and I love how skinny this book is. Like it's very, very thin. It's such a nice thin book, so I feel like it holds really nicely in your hand. Because I feel like my biggest gripes with it delve more into the quality, and I am not about to go cross rubric here. So I'm sticking in the rubric.
So, how it feels, I would say E. I know I said last time I'm not all about like the cover texture. My soft cover is really, really slippery. It's almost like a magazine on the front, which if you're like sitting up in a chair to read it, that would kind of affect like your grip, I suppose, your book grip. But the size and proportions make it very readable. So I'm giving it an E. If it wasn't super magazine slippery, I might have given it an O. But
right.
I think that's just because I have the paperback version.
Yeah, and I would say here's the kicker is I feel like the quality of this book is where it really like falls, because the cover, I guess just like the material that they use for the boards, it is just so easily dented. My corners get so rounded, and the spine, it gets really wiggly. So yeah, I would give the quality probably a poor.
I'm with you on the poor for paperback. There are a lot of dents in this book you sent me. I don't know if you got mad one night and just chucked it all around your house.
I said, where's that Romanian paperback?
Ow, I found it.
I am mad.
Here, Eric, take it. But no, I do feel if I dropped this on the spine, like on the side of my table, it would make another giant dent, to add to the other giant dents that are there. So I'm going poor for the physical quality of the book.
Yeah, it's not.
I feel like we need to specify the physical quality of the book, not the
quality of the
overallness.
contents, which are always outstanding. And then just the cover art, which I would also, I don't know. I'm just going to say that it's acceptable. Because, so it's Mary Grand Pré art. I think my biggest gripe, I keep using the word gripe. I keep having gripes.
You're on a gripe fix
I keep
this
saying
week.
the word gripe, and now the word gripe doesn't make sense anymore. It's just, is it even a word?
I don't know. We got to get the thesaurus. Get the thesaurus out.
Well, how I feel about this book is I don't like my image is like off-centered, like from the main like I don't know. I feel like the text is not centered. The image doesn't look like completely right. It's just very off. So I don't know.
I agree with you on that. And for those of you that aren't familiar with the illustrator names, Mary Grand Pré does the American art. So if you've seen the like iconic American Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone cover of Harry catching the snitch, you know, with through the little archway, that's this cover. And a ton of translations borrow this cover.
Yes.
Just because of, I think it's so iconic, right? I think it's almost in some cases more iconic than the Thomas Taylor illustration, which is the original UK book. For whatever reason, just maybe more for like movie promotion.
Maybe.
I think people, I don't know, but I found it kind of interesting that translations choose the American art more often
Except
than
Hawaiian, which is American and uses Thomas Taylor art.
Oh well. But anyway,
I digress.
I agree with you. It's kind of off center. To me, it's not hard to screw this up. Like you just have to make sure that the subtitle fits in the archway and that everything is where it needs to be. And it's not on this cover. Like the which is CSI. It's like halfway in between the arch and above the arch, kind of right on the line, and it's just not
nice.
It doesn't look super clean, and there are covers that make this look super clean, and this is not one of them. And I just don't think it's if all you do is straight up copy the American book, I'm giving you at least an A, if not an E, because Mary Grand Pré.
Exactly.
It's an iconic cover. It's not hard to mess up, but if you don't get it right, it's very hard for me to give it even an A. So I'm kind of going poor on this one too.
All right, I'm gonna go. I think I'm gonna change mine to poor as well. I feel like I'm not happy. I'm not happy with it. It makes me sad. I will say
the redemption point for me with the soft cover is that the Harry Potter font is white, and it's also white on the spine. And that might be like a laziness thing too. I don't know, but I do like when there is a little bit of uniqueness to the cover. Like I'm cool if they pick white. Like just pick white and make sure everything's in the right spot.
I mean, mine it's like
it's good for me.
It's like fake gold. It's like they tried to make it look three-dimensional and gold, but didn't quite make them.
One of the Russian books is like that too. I'm pretty sure.
Which one?
One of the earlier ones.
Oh, like just like the Mary Grand Pré, like hardcover
it's
Russian.
Like kind of like that faux 3D print. Like
oh my god, like okay, but here's a prime example of that. So this is done wrong, like three-dimensional. Look at your Norwegian. That is done right. Like the way that the Norwegian logo looks is unbelievable and looks so three-dimensional and amazing. I love that one.
Yeah, and also in Norwegian, everything's in the right spot. Like, nothing's on top of something that it shouldn't be. So, yeah.
See? It can be done.
It can be done. Can be done.
So, overall, I would say it's like an acceptable book, but if you're going to go for collecting all of the translations of book one, or whatever you're going to do for your collection, it's a book you got to have on your shelves.
Got to have it.
We got to have it. As gripey as I feel toward this book, I still love it. I still love this book so much. It's still
we love every single
sentimental
one.
And beautiful to me. So overall, I still love this book. The end.
The end. Well, I think that's all the time we have today on this episode of Dialogue Alley. So I have a little housekeeping info to tell all of you. But before we go into that, I think we do want to acknowledge that the passing of Robbie Coltrane, who is most notable for being the actor that portrayed Hagrid in the Harry Potter movies, just kind of has saddened all of us. And it's just kind of really a hard day for the Harry Potter community in general. I know that he's probably one of my favorite parts of the movie. I know, Melanie, he's one of your favorite parts of the movie too.
I'm happy I'm not talking right now because I'm like,
I know,
I'm choking
and
up and I'm having like,
I know.
I've been having such a hard time about this all day because Robbie Coltrane is my Hagrid, and Hagrid's my favorite character in these books, and it is a big, big hard hit to our community. So, wow, it's been a really rough day. Like that's. Whew. I
It's
didn't
always
think
hard.
I would
It's
cry.
always
I didn't
hard.
think I would cry, but actually, like, I've been crying all day. So, like, my heart is like absolutely shattered over it. But I don't know. Keep going, Eric. You were doing great. You were doing great.
So we can have a wands up moment for Robbie Coltrane, and just thank you for everything that you contributed to the Harry Potter fandom.
Oh,
because
absolutely.
really, it's my favorite character in the movie, I think, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, that being said, let's move on to a bit of housekeeping stuff with our show. So, if you like what you're listening to and you want to get in touch with any of the three of us, you can do so in a lot of different ways. You can find Carly on Instagram at All the Pretty Books. You can find me on Instagram at Nocturne Eric, like knock on a door, like a K. There's a silent K at the start there.
Like
but
how
some
you would
people-
spell the word knock, you know?
Yeah, but some people don't put it in there, and I'm like, how else do you spell knock? There's no other way to spell it.
I don't know.
But what's easy to spell is Melanie, which is at the Harry Potter Collection. It's pretty straightforward. We have some great websites you can check out. The first one is Carly's, alltheprettybooks.net. Melanie's is theharrypottercollection.com. And then our newest website, which is Dialoguealley.com.
Woohoo!
Brilliant.
I do want to note with that because in designing the website, it was like kind of tricky to locate like our actual podcast on it. But there's this cute little yellow book in the top right corner, and that if you just click that, that's where our podcast is. So it'll bring you right to our podcast.
There it is. We are on social media. Also, we have a Twitter, which is Dialogue_Alley. We have a Instagram account, which is Dialoguealleypodcast. And Melanie has a TikTok where she posts some fun Harry Potter related stuff, which is, guess what? The Harry Potter Collection.
Oh my gosh, who would have thunk?
I thunked.
You thunked it? You thunked it?
I thunked it.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, but there's a lot of cool stuff on there. Remember, you can also find our podcast on whatever streaming service you're currently listening to it on. However, if you would like to listen to our podcast ad-free, we do have that option, and that is one of the options you get if you join us on Patreon. So if you go to patreon.com/dialoguealley, you can join for a small monthly contribution to keep the show going. One of the tiers is ad-free episodes, so that's one of the perks. Another perk that people have been enjoying is you get access to our Discord, even at the basic tier. And Discord is kind of like a chat room forum site, and this specific Discord is only people that listen to our podcast. So if you want to talk about book translations, you got people to talk to about it. If you're looking for a book and you want to try to make a connection with someone else that might have a contact in a different country, you can do that there. It's a very safe space to do that. If you want to, I don't know, talk about anything else Harry Potter related, also a very safe space to discuss Harry Potter related things as well. It is a very welcoming community. It is all inclusive. We do not discriminate. So if you like Harry Potter, we will talk to you about Harry Potter stuff on our Discord. Something else we should mention is we are now a part of MuggleNet. So if you want to listen to well, yeah, you can listen. You can listen to other MuggleNet podcasts if you go to MuggleNet.com. There's a little drop-down menu.
They're all part of the MuggleNet family.
They're all part of the MuggleNet family, right? Which, part of the family too. It's so familyness. It's just great. We really should be adding sound effects into this show.
I like our own
fun.
added sound effects. I feel like we do a pretty decent job.
We do.
I like our
outstanding.
My favorite is
my
the
favorite
pew,
one.
pew, pew, pew.
Yeah, I like that too. So you can go to MuggleNet and check out all the wonderful things they have on that website also, which is a lot. They've been around for a long time, and they're a great resource for all things Harry Potter.
One thing I have to say is that MuggleNet put us in contact with one of the most wonderful human beings that walks this earth, and her name is Carolyn. And Carolyn is so wonderful because she's the one that designed our brand new logo. And I can't believe, like, I guess all of the excitement, we like tried to jot down everything last episode and mention everything. And she deserves her own special mention because she worked so hard and so meticulously with us to come up with a logo that we are so in love with. And we just appreciate her so, so, so very much. So Carolyn, thank you so much.
Yay, thank you.
We love you.
We also love all you listeners out there. And if this was your first show that you listened to, thank you so much for stopping by. If this is the, I don't know, what are we on? 64, 5, 6, 7? We're in the 60s somewhere.
Somewhere in there.
If episode, like, thank you so much for still listening to us. I'm glad we're still entertaining you and providing you a good Harry Potter outlet. The show does plan to release every Monday, and we do plan to release a bonus episode at least once a month on our Discord for certain members of our Patreon. So if that's something you want to get to, check it out on Patreon. But I think with all of that being said, it's time to walk back through the archway and into our daily lives, and we will catch you all next time. Bye, everybody.
See ya.